moment in his life. All force, all will. Vlaar for the Netherlands. Saved by Romero. And so, Maxi Rodriguez, who scored in Argentina's last World Cup penalty shootout 8 years ago in Berlin. It's in, and Argentina are real bound. The South American World Cup has a South American finalist after all. The American arm must roll out its red carpet for its most rivalrous visitors of all.
Good day, I'm Fayyaz Qureishi. In tonight's edition of The Living Legends, we speak to a man who has been at the heart of Kenya's economic planning. Born in Kenya, he lived and schooled in different parts of the world before joining the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, better known as MIT, for his PhD. He taught at the University of Nairobi for 17 years before joining the government as a Director of Economics. He has been on the board of Strathmore University and served at the Central Bank of Kenya in different senior capacities. In this edition of The Living Legends, we speak to renowned economist, Professor Terry Ryan. Professor Ryan,
yes,
it is such a great pleasure to actually have a legend, the father of economics.
No, others, people would dispute that, but
I don't think many would dispute that. It's such a great pleasure. Welcome to The Living Legends. Now, of course, we'll just start off with your early life, your education. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Right.
Where you were born.
I was born up country. I was actually born in Nakuru, but grew up in Molo. My parents were farmers, and grew up in a thatch roof, which leaked, by the way. But then effectively farmed until the war came. That's the Second World War. Mm-hmm. And my father went off to war, so I was sent off to school in Turi. St. Andrews had been in existence for a year at that time. It was built by the farmer for his children, mm-hmm. and he said, right, anybody else can send their children here, so we went there. Then later on, in the early 40s, I came down to St. Mary's, which had been founded in 1939, so I went there in 1942, and it was over in Parklands at that time, so it's not the school that you see now. It was so that, and then after the war was over, because my mother was Australian and her parents were still alive in Australia, my brother and I then went to Australia, and we lived for the next 6 years with my grandparents in Australia. Obviously my mother and father were here, still farming, and I was convinced that the only reason for going to school was so that you could train for running. That was, so I used to run cross country and all that sort of thing. Obviously, somewhere back in the genes. Then at the end of that, I went to Strathmore, what was then Strathmore College of Arts and Science, and founded the economics school there. Taught Professor Leo Morathi, incidentally, among the first students there. But then very soon realized that this wasn't really all that challenging. Mm-hmm. So I left the colonial civil service, and then joined the University of Nairobi. Supervised a whole lot of people there, by the way, including Patrick Njoroge, the current director, governor of the central bank.
Yeah, I'll mention some names here. Treasury Cabinet Secretary, Professor Njuguna Ndungu.
Yes, yes.
Dr. Joseph Kinyua,
Yeah,
the immediate former head of the public service.
all of
Mika Chesrem, former central bank governor.
yeah, all these
Dr.
guys.
Patrick Njoroge, the current central bank governor.
There's a whole bunch of them, but so you've inflicted economics on them.
So when you joined the Treasury as Director of Planning,
Yeah.
what are the major issues that you embarked on immediately?
That's precisely what it was all about. So I went to Professor Saitoti, who was the minister, and I said, you don't really want me. You want the development plan. You know I've been writing, criticizing it. He said, yeah, I want the development plan. And I said, well, I'll write the development plan. You don't want me here. And he said, no, you're here for 3 years. So between October and December the 12th, when the president had to have the development plan in his hands, you had to write the development plan. Not only write it, but actually print it, so that you could hand it to the copies that we presented to the president on that morning had quick drying paint. This is factually true. They're a different color from all the other ones.
Okay.
Because they came off the printing press that morning as we were. So we got them to the president and we launched the development plan. So what this had done, it had enabled us to at least move away from the type of development plan which Kenya had been living with before, which were really just shopping lists. Now, shopping lists are bad news. They're fine if you're popular with donors.
Right.
And a donor can look through your projects and say, oh, I like this project. And they do that. Whether it's relevant to you or not is another question. Now, this means that you lose control of the economy. Now, the idea of a development plan is you control the economy to go in the direction you want. Let's move on to 1984. 1984, for some of us, is memorable for a drought. It's the biggest drought that we've had. It's bigger than what we've got at the moment. It's bigger than anything. And statistically, it's bigger than anything we've had. It was a drought on both the East Drift and West Drift.
It was horrific.
So what happened mean that the conventional food surplus areas were now in food deficit. So you were having to send food over to that side. So 1984, Simeon Nechai, who was at that time Permanent Secretary for District Focus, was put in charge of the drought. And he said, right, we're going to have a team. So Reuben Rianga will be the guy in charge, and Ryan will do the planning at this end, and anytime you've got a problem, you come to me. Fine. Say no more. We'll run your drought for you. So we put a map up on the wall where people were, where storage spaces were, etc. And we proceeded to try and handle this huge drought, gigantic. And I don't think people are aware how it's the only case other than the Olympic Games where everybody thought of them as themselves as Kenyan. In the Olympic Games, we all say we're Kenyan. On this occasion, we also said we're Kenyan. It's a common problem. So when we said, right, we're going to have to bring food in, we're going to have to buy food, use our foreign exchange to buy it, But we will get the donors. We'll tell the donors what we've got. So we, when I say we, Simin Yachai summoned the donors, and we met in Kenyatta Conference Center. All the donors were there, and Yachai says, right, this is what we've got, and this is what we need. And the donors said, we're going to check your numbers. FAO will check. The Swedes, and the Swedes only, said, food is on the way.
They were the only ones.
They were the only one. They sent us 60,000 tons there on their day. The rest...
Desperately needed. The drought was devastating.
Desperate. And so we were buying food, waiting for the... And when eventually the FAO proved that our numbers were correct, by that time we were well underway. Now, so you have food coming in at the port, and you have trucks coming along to move this stuff. So, following standard procedure, we said, right, well, we'll go to tender for the convoys. And the Truckers Association came to us and they said, don't. We will handle this as our contribution. We will make sure that the trucks, not a single convoy was looted the whole time.
That was great.
Because everybody said, it's our problem.
It's our problem. Now let's just go to the Goldenberg scandal, the 1992 elections,
right,
and the economic aftermath of the Kenya shilling being devalued by 92%, and what it meant to the economy. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So when Goldenberg was mooted, and the moral of Goldenberg was, right, there is this gold being smuggled through Kenya, and that's true. It is being smuggled through Kenya. So if we can catch it as it's going through, it will then become official, and you'll have that foreign exchange instead of it all going away, right?
Right.
So now, to prove my point, an identical scheme, had been sent to us early on, and we'd refused it because we had foreign exchange. It's an identical scheme,
right?
But we said no. We don't need this because this is you're cheating. So we said no. Well, this is. We need the foreign exchange.
Because this is gold being smuggled. The gold doesn't exist.
No, see, the gold does exist. There is gold being smuggled through the country.
But not from Kenya, from other countries.
No, smuggled through
Kenya.
Through Kenya. It's not Kenyan gold.
Yeah, it's not Kenyan gold.
This is smuggled through Kenya. We're a conduit. So, and so we said, right, well, let's see whether we can do anything about this. Now, of course, at this point, it moved completely outside the economists. The director of planning, the director of statistics was discharged because he obeyed me. I've always thought this is a major injustice. They should have discharged me, not him. Because I said, the balance of payments, you can't put gold in the balance of payments because there's no gold.
There's no gold.
So he put no gold in the balance of payments, and he lost his job in consequence, which I thought very unjust. But anyway, so we tried to say, look, let's stop this thing. Let's not allow the damage. This is doing immense damage to the economy. It's, we're printing money like Mother's birthday. Money is just up to here. Now, if money is up to there, then inflation we're talking to the housewives now. The housewives, we're talking about really serious inflation. We're heading up towards about 100% on a 3-month annualized basis.
Right.
That's about 35% on an annual basis.
Wow.
So you don't want that sort of inflation. Now, the only way that economists know to solve this is dry the money up, get the money out of the system. So you now start to try drying the money up. The only way that you have is we start selling treasury bills, and we sell treasury bills, and we sell more treasury bills, and now I can only sell them if people will buy them. And they'll only buy them if the price is right.
So the interest rates have shot up to about what, 80, 85% then?
84.
84%.
84% on a treasury bill.
So the demand came.
Now, all right, we managed to bring it down very quickly because we got the money out of the system. So once you've got then you immediately send everything down. Now, in the meantime, the exchange rate was going up, because Philip Ndegwa's efforts, Philip had now retired, and Eric Katut had come in as the governor of the central bank, and the rate was moving up. We produced a very good animal, a thing called a Forex C. The foreign exchange certificate, because this was another way of getting round this thing. Any way to get round the system. So we actually produced the Forex C, and we said, if you have a Forex C, this gives you a right to that foreign exchange at the official price. So when you buy this, the difference between what you buy...
that time. You had to purchase Forex C certificates.
Yeah, so you buy the foreign exchange and then you pay the official price. So effectively, you paid more for the foreign exchange. So we've liberalized the exchange rate.
Right.
So we worked at this, and then unfortunately that also messed up as well. But people tend to forget. The Busiri Commission brings this out very, very clearly, that the actual gold smuggling business is small relative to the total damage, because you have...
what was the export compensation, 35%?
Well, the export compensation was 20%.
Initially?
No. Not initially, actually. I'm being linguistic, because you cannot produce a 35% unless you legally establish it. And it was not legally established, so it is not export compensation. It was called all sorts of other things, but it wasn't export compensation, because the export...
But it all added up to 35%.
It added up to 35%, but now it's not export compensation, because export compensation is the compensation for taxes that you've paid on your inputs for your exports.
Exactly.
Now, if gold is being smuggled through the country, you've got no inputs, right? So it's all wrong. So it's an illegal activity, right?
The gold isn't yours, it's coming from another country.
Yeah. Now, and then very quickly, they realized that you didn't need to have any gold. All you needed was Exchange Bank. If you have Exchange Bank, then you don't need any gold. Exchange Bank merely said, we've received the foreign exchange, and so you pay the premium.
You pay the premium, the 35%.
Yeah, because you never saw that there was no foreign exchange going into Exchange Bank.
We're running short of time. It's just an amazing conversation. We could go on and on. We have a new government that has to tackle high inflation, a weakening exchange rate, high debt levels, What is your outlook for the economy, given that you were central to the reforms such as privatization and liberalization of the economy? And the current government is also emphasizing on the importance of privatization.
Right. Let's deal a little bit on political economy. If I looked at the current framework, there's a new animal appeared, and it's a completely new animal. That's the Council of Economic Advisors. Now this is a new animal. We don't know how it will work. David Ndee is a brilliant economist. He really is brilliant. He's bright.
Right.
No. So that's there, and we don't know how it's going to work. But they're putting it on the American model. Mm-hmm. Now, if you do the American model, then it's the Council of Economic Advisors is very important in America. It really has a major input.
Right.
Now, will that work here? We don't know. Now, the other aspect of it is the liberalization, all that sort of thing. See, the hustler, the language of hustler,
right,
is that we want reform. Now, this is where I'm an authority on reform. Nothing is more certain than the people who have privilege under an existing regime will oppose reform. It is absolutely 100% certain, because I'm taking away your ice cream.
Yes.
I'm sorry. No ice cream. Right. So reform...
That's just a hard reality. You've said it right. Yeah.
Now, are you prepared for the flack? Because the guys who've got privilege are powerful. They are powerful. They are the lobbies. The lobbies are tough. Privilege. The people who are going to gain in reform are disorganized. And they're unaware of what they're likely to receive if the reform goes through. They can always be mobilized to say, oh no, you don't really need a reform. Worldwide experience, not just Kenya, worldwide. So, reform, if you're trying to reform, you've got to have it in your chai. You've got to have a champion. You've got to have somebody who's got the power to go to the president and say, Mr. President, sir, it's painful, but this is what's going to be done. And it's going to be painful. You're going to get egg on your face, but that's the way the economy is going to, that we will solve our problem. It's soluble. It's soluble. All you've got to do is just endorse the middle class. Furwa Benzi, right? I have little sympathy with the SUV, the 3-car garage.
That's such an important point what you said. Endorse the middle class.
Sorry?
Very important point. Endorse the middle class.
Yeah.
They are going to be your drivers of the economy.
They have to be prepared to stand up and face reality, because people are not going to like them.
Yeah.
And lobbies are powerful. Lobbies have money. Lobbies can buy. As I say, I can talk forever.
Yes, it's been such an extreme pleasure. Like you just mentioned, we could sit here and chat for hours and hours. There's so much to hear from you, to learn from you, all the experience, the expertise. You are literally, I'll say that again, the father of economics, and it's been an extreme pleasure to have actually interviewed you on this platform of the Living Legends. Professor Ryan, thank you so much for gracing this program.
I hope it's been useful.
It has, 100%. It's been an extreme pleasure speaking to Professor Terry Ryan. He has written a book on the history of currency in Kenya, shaped Kenya's free market economy, taught some of the leading figures in the management of Kenya's economy, and served on the board of Strathmore University. Thank you very much, Professor Terry Ryan, for giving us your time. I am Fayyaz Qureishi. Thank you for watching.
Kiswahili kitukuzwe.
Waswahili husema cha uvundo hakiliki, lakini hapa Lenana leo hakuna uvundo, chalika.
Ndio the sons of Mashariki, tajulikana hadi magharibi, na kama huamini tupe muda.
Na hakika kuwa hakuna mzazi anayeketi na mtoto wake na kumpea wosia, au anayeketi na mzazi na mtoto wake na kumpea mawaidha asiyofaa.